Hello, I'm William Gallagher and this is the Video Keys Writing Workshop set of videos. Normally I tell you how I write something. This case I'm going to say how I do something, but then in either case you please disagree with me entirely in the comments. It's a discussion, that's the whole point of this, otherwise what is the value? So this time, how to interview on stage. Now I'm going to do another video you'll see very soon of what it's like when you were the one being interviewed on stage, but for now you're helping out at a literature festival, you're doing something like that, you're getting to interview someone, maybe you're getting to interview your writing hero on a podcast. Podcasts are different, actually. Let me pull that back. I'm going to think specifically this time of stage for it, okay? Because there are rules, but you've seen writers being interviewed on stage. You've seen it done well, you've seen it done badly. I offer that through doing it and having it done to me. I believe I know how to do it well, and I would like to at least suggest some things to you. Really the key one of which is you as the interviewer are absolutely, totally crucial, and you don't mean anything at all. You are of no importance whatsoever. No one has come to that event to see you. Everyone has come to see the people you are interviewing. Now, I kind of like that. I feel like it frees me a little bit. I don't feel quite as tense. You are actually in the same position as the audience, hopefully. You're keen to talk to these people and you've got that opportunity, and you've got to lead it, you've got to guide it, you've got to shepherd it along a little bit. But what I've even said on stage is that I'm in the best seat in the house, and I mean it completely. But before you get to that stage of the practicalities of being on stage in front of the audience with a time slot, if you possibly can, talk with the writer or the writers about how it's going to work. I mean, I will mention this in the one when you are the one being interviewed, because I think in some ways it feels more important, but always, pretty much, you and they, what you're really doing is making a little show between you for that audience, and you're doing it in, say, a literary festival. So you are one event amongst many. What can you make together? I've had people say, is there anything you don't want to talk about? And the answer is always no. I've had people ask, how do I want to be introduced? Because I do lots of different things, and I'll give them some options, but I just did a radio thing and I found myself saying, just call me whatever works best for your show. That's fine. You're making something together for it. But now, the practicalities of all of this, because there are practicalities for it. I would like you to avoid doing that bit of, so, tell us something about yourself. Particularly, actually, I think when you say you have a panel of maybe 3 or 4 writers, because it is deathly dull. The giant majority of your audience who are there already know at least one of the writers work for it, and even if they don't know any of it, it will come out in the telling for it. But then there's also this, which I haven't been told this, I've just kind of witnessed it. Say there you are at the end of the table and you have 3 writers. Tell me all about yourself. First writer starts talking, second writer and third writer, well, they've come on the stage a little bit nervous, but now they're starting to slightly relax because he's going to go on a bit, isn't he? When they relax, there's a terrible habit for writers like that to fidget. I've had people doing things with their hands and their nails, and fine, I'm sure I would be prone to doing the same if I hadn't seen it. It's not in any way a criticism of them, but it does something. It takes everybody's eyes away from the person talking. Anything like that where not only is there going to be a boring bit of tell me about yourself, followed by the next person, tell me about yourself, and then anything where the sequence is obvious to the writers on stage and to you. So you're interviewing them and you ask them each a question, and then you go back down the line incredibly quickly, you and they get it. And whoever isn't the next person to talk knows they're not the person to talk. They're relaxed, they're kind of not off duty, but not as up and ready for it. I know, there's a great example of this, political example. Margaret Thatcher used to be Prime Minister in the UK, and the UK had a kind of loathe-hate relationship with her. But before she was PM, she was going around the country saying all the stuff she said, and it was kind of in those pre-internet days, the same speech everywhere. You knew it was. Insert town name here, like a rock star kind of thing. Okay, but that means people who are with her entourage had heard this speech quite a lot. One of them was her husband, Dennis Thatcher. I'm amazed at where does that name come back from? And there's footage of him in a couple of places where she's standing up, saying her things. I should lead the country, or whatever it was she was doing at that time. And there's him next to her going. I don't think he ever went, but it was definitely. Everybody watched him instead of her. Now you totally understand where he knew that speech backwards. He could have delivered it himself, but he should, and you should if you're in this position, pretend it's the first time you've ever heard it. While you are on stage as the interviewer, or later when I talk about when you're the writer, you're on all the time. From the moment you get on there to the moment you are off the stage. The mics are live. You are in performance mode all the way through, whether or not you're speaking. So when you do have the three panels, and they can be so interesting, when that other person is speaking, you are really interested in them, whether you're the interviewer or one of the other writers. Because otherwise, you're like telling the audience it isn't worth looking at. So all of that from tell me about yourself and the sequence of it. But there is more. There are practical things. One is that you do have a set amount of time. Okay, you will always have a set amount of time. Some venues, very nicely, will have a clock that's at the back that you can see, but make sure you have something. I use my iPad. I look down here because that's where I keep all notes and things. On here, if we were on stage, I would have a few notes of some questions I want to ask, but I'd also have the clock really prominently, because I am absolutely ruthless about ending on time. And I'm that way because you've made a promise to the audience, this is a slot for the hour, and usually there's another show right afterwards. So you stick to that time. Okay, religiously is the word I'm looking for. But in that time, you also kind of have to tell people about the time. So what you will do is you will tell them up at the front, well, we've got an hour here, and what we're going to do is, and usually what you're going to do is, I would suggest you frame it this way. Tell them there's going to be questions, there's a certain amount of questions for it. Tell them that right at the front so that people can be ready to ask. They probably were thinking already, but give it to them, cue them at the start that this is going to happen. And then try it like this. You could say that what you are going to do in the interview is ask the questions that probably most of us want to know, the main ones, and then you can do other questions. It's not like I'm diminishing them. If there's a way to phrase it that you're doing the common questions, the normal ones, and then we can throw it out to the audience for special ones. Okay, so you do that, you go through it. I want to go back to this idea of a panel when you have several writers, because then you're asking a question probably of one of them, and you've got that temptation of asking the next. Do whatever you can to just shake up the pattern, and you will do this by listening to the writer who is speaking right now. Listen to something they're saying, pick up on it, and throw it to one of the other writers. If you have three, preferably not the writer next to them, but the one at the end, going back and forth. And when they've said something, pick up something like that and throw it to the other writer that hasn't spoken yet. Keep them all in play is what I'm asking about. I did a thing where Kit Duvall was one of two people on the panel. I was interviewing them for it, and it was about the television production of My Name is Leon, and there was the producer of it, and she was answering all sorts of really interesting questions, and it just felt to me like Kit, I mean, she's a pro. She wasn't getting disengaged, but she wasn't being used enough for it. So I picked the last thing that the producer said, threw it to Kit, and thought, I'll be lucky if she's got an answer to this. It was so specific, and she did. I mean, again, a pro, but it ignited a story about her being on set for the production. It told us all sorts of things that I'm sure she obviously was ready to tell us if we asked, but if we hadn't asked, we wouldn't have known. It's just this little piece of gold that came, I mean, mostly from her, of course, but solely prompted by my needing to keep everybody in play. Throw things back and forth, cover things, and every now and again, remind people that there'll be questions coming up. Now, when it comes to the time for questions, there's a small problem that this might be a British thing. People are just going to go, Nobody wants to be first to ask anything. What I offer in this point is I introduced the Q&A section by saying, well, actually, I have loads of more questions asked on my own, but it is time to ask you. And if nobody wants to ask anything, then I'll just steal all this time. Some phrase like that. I think I've been more eloquent on stage. I hope so. Anyway, and then you get into the questions bit. Somebody will ask something, and once one person has, off it goes. There's a problem, and you've seen this. Any questions, anybody? Yeah, not so much a question, more more a speech or something like that. You have to kill that, really. You don't want to be rude to anybody, but that person did not come to ask a question. They came to talk about themselves, and okay, I suppose we all like to do it, but that person is taking up time that could be used by everybody else. So what you do is this. You tell them, that's really an interesting point, but I think actually it'd be best if you spoke to whoever that writer was, and because they'll be around after the event, you can have a chat to them. And I'm afraid to say, I don't care whether they'll actually be around. If they have to run off the second they're out of stage, I don't care. Shoot that person down fast as you can. Now, they will be offended. I don't care how cleverly you do it, the giant majority of the time, they're not going to be very happy with you, but the rest of the audience will love you, because just like you, and oh God, so did they. Okay, without fail. So you moved somebody else and you asked a question. I should say for both of these, whenever somebody asks a question in an audience, you repeat it back. I've seen audience members get a little bit frustrated with that, and it is taking up time. But the trouble is that most of the places you will do this in, I mean, hopefully it's a theatre, it's designed for this. If it is a proper theatre space, then the acoustics are particularly special. The acoustics from the stage to the audience and from the audience to the stage are fantastic and are designed to be. But across the room, one side of the audience to the other, they will be dreadful. So no question, unfortunately just a word there, somebody who speaks to you from over there will not be heard by somebody who's sitting over here. So it is your job to make sure the whole audience knows what the question is, and you can change the question. Now, I'm not saying that to be in a kind of malicious way or to put your own questions for, but you can, I mean, you're a writer, so you can do this. You can be much more concise, usually, than a reader would be. For you can frame the question more concisely. You can actually say to them, so what you would say is, and the question, took it out to people, and then you throw it to the writers. You can alter it along the way if you feel that question is wrong somehow. If it's blurring into that thing of the not so much a question, yeah, that kind of thing, you can steer things a little bit for it, only a little bit, but you can. And there's also this, you listening to the question, repeating your version of it back for everybody, gives the writers time to think of their answer. And again, usually somebody will say, this is a question rather for this writer, in which case, yeah, they're the one who has to answer it. Once they have, you take that question, and if it's possible, throw it to the others as well. Again, it's keeping them in play. If it's, how did you write chapter 3 of book 7 and why did this guy say, well, then you're screwed. But if it's a more general thing, then you can throw it out and get different points of view. It's all taking up time, but actually it's taking up time usefully. And I think it's making the most out of a question. But the ideal is to get as many questions from the audience as you can and use that time to the best advantage, because this is their chance to talk with a writer that they like, hopefully that they like a lot. This is more about the question there, I think. Sorry, it's on my mind, so just let me tell you this. I was at the, would have been the Birmingham Literature Festival, and there was a panel about genre writing, and it came to the question time, and there wasn't a lot of time left for questions because there were 3 genre writers, and they're all very interesting, and time was eating away. But I got to ask the first question, and I like my questioning because I will be so concise. And all I said was, does the panel ever feel constrained by the genre they're writing in? It took up the whole 20 minutes, the question. Not my bit, their answer did to it. And they were so interesting. And it felt in the moment like an area they'd not talked about and that they wanted to talk about. So I felt very good about that. I felt very bad about the fact that there was no time for any other questions. But at least, I did say, not really so much a question. Why do I go into that voice for this? Anyway, that's about asking questions. I'm thinking more about you leading the instructions, leading the panel. That's what I'm thinking of. But leading the panel includes ending the panel. I'm not kidding, ruthless about the time. Start queuing at the time. We have a couple of minutes left, time for one question. We might get in 2 more questions. But in the end, that's it, we are out of time. And you say it, we are out of time. And then you lead a thank you for the panelists, the writers. There's probably some sort of housekeeping thing you can do then, and if there isn't, do it anyway. Plug what the next event in the festival is, or maybe the next thing you're doing, as long as you're brief about it. Remember that you're part of the whole in the festival, so you are knitting your piece into it, and then out, get off that stage. What happens after that? Well, some writers will have to go away straight away. Others will be delighted in sticking around. I mean, when I've been interviewed, I've often gone to other events afterwards as an attendee, and it's great. Love it. What a brilliant place to be, a literature festival. You will feel responsible for looking after your writers. Do talk to them afterwards. Tell them how great they were, because they will have been great, but we all need it. Then at some point, you're going to let them go for it. I make it sound like it's easy, I think. I make it sound like there's lots of bits to it. I urge you to take away this fact that I said right at the start, that you don't matter in the slightest, and yet you're also crucially important. I kind of love that balance of it. I mean, you see interviewers being very self-important, and yeah, what a waste of time that. You'll see writers being self-important, but nothing you can do about that. So you're in control, you're in total charge, you must steer it, you must control it, and you must end it. That's what I'm going to say there. Do you remember there's going to be another video about what it's like on the opposite end of this? Is it the opposite end? I was thinking of when you're a writer. Should we do a video on what it's like to be in the audience, asking questions? Yeah, be concise and don't go, not so much a question. Okay. But for this one, how to interview on stage, and very specifically, I mean on stage, podcasting, broadcast, all very different, but for on stage, that's it for this edition of the 58 Keys Writing Workshop set of videos. Thank you very much for watching. Now, you know what I'm thinking. Need you to write in the comments so we can have a discussion about this, about what works for you, what doesn't, and all that kind of thing. Writer to writer, having a chat and putting off writing. We do not put off writing. In fact, we're going to go do some now. Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself. Go write something, and I'll see you soon.